E.A. Ilyin is a comrade of E.E. Kovalev. In December 1983, he also submitted an article in the Journal of Aviation, Space and Environmental Medicine. His article discussed the Bion flights and was titled Investigations on Biosatellites in the Cosmos series. Curiously, the altitudes Ilyin lists are different to those obtained from Encyclopedia Astronautica. But according to Ilyin, the dose rate of natural radiation aboard the Bions was 25 millirad per day. He also states that the rats aboard Bion 2, also known as Cosmos 690, received a dose as high as 885 rad. But these rats were subjected to artificial radiation produced by an onboard gamma ray generator. We know that Russia states that the radiation below the Van Allen belts is 25 millirad per day. This is in agreement to what we are told by John H. Malden and Gene Parker. Both astrophysicists state that the radiation below the belts is 10 rem per year, which is 27.37 millirem per day, only slightly higher than Russia's numbers. This is low, but as Renee points out, Malden also states the permitted dose for people is about 0.5 rem per year. If the permitted dose is about 0.5 rem per year, and the average radiation in local space is 10 rem per year, this means that the radiation in low Earth orbit is 20 times higher than the permitted dose. Obviously, even this lower dose is not entirely healthy. Now try the average dose within the Van Allen belt and beyond the Van Allen belt. We know where Malden stands when it comes to the GeV protons beyond these belts. Cosmic particles typically require 2 meters of dense material to stop them below 10 GeV. Increase of energy accounts for most of the increased radiation danger because GeV protons or their products will penetrate several meters of material. To this day, no propagast has been able to substantiate the claim that dense material shielding was not required for a manned moonflight. And sad to say, their responses become more and more outlandish as their old ones are disproved. For example, Grand Luna of ApolloHoax.net fame sarcastically asked me in debate,
"Does this mean we'll see claims by you that nuclear reactors are fake? Because they use plastics to shield against neutron radiation, whose shielding technique is similar to protons because both particles are similar in mass."
YouTube user, Spreading the Muse, had tried on the same argument.
You can stand next to a 50,000 rem reactor and not be scratched, which I know because I have done it.
There is a pretty good reason why nuclear reactors don't require 5 meters of shielding. They run on either plutonium or uranium. Plutonium and uranium are both alpha emitters. Alpha particles are 2 protons and 2 neutrons joined together. Unlike high-speed protons and electrons in space, alpha particles cannot penetrate human skin and subsequently can only do severe damage if they are ingested, injected, or inhaled. A layman making this mistake is understandable, but how a reactor worker could not comprehend this basic fact is beyond imagination. Evidently, the propagandists don't really care about the different shielding requirements for the different types of radiation, and simply prefer to compare the two as though they were related in any sense.
There's different kinds of radiation, and the kind of radiation that is in the belt is actually stopped pretty well by the insulation in the spacecraft and the suits they were wearing. There's a kind of radiation that you can stop with a piece of paper, and so a lot of people just think, oh, radiation, we're going to die, but there's different kinds in the belt. There are different radiation in the belts, different belts. It's all very complicated.
By far the most outlandish and unsubstantiated misrepresentation of Malden's data comes from probably the most unlikely source, a seller on eBay.
Deadly radiation on the moon? Rubbish! John Malden, a physicist who worked for NASA, once said shielding at least 2 meters thick would be needed. He did say this in 1958. This was the result of an educated guess in '58, a claim not supported by modern data from many countries, including Britain, China, Russia, and Japan. The hoax supporters keep bashing on about it, but never produced the date it was said or a single figure. I will!
But Malden's statement was not made in 1958. His book was written in 1992, and that proposal is still valid today, having been verified by God only knows how many other sources. The more recent sources come from Gene Parker, who proposes 5 meters of shielding against 2 GeV particles, and James Van Hoften, the shuttle astronaut who stated that cosmic rays are so dangerous and so poorly understood that people are unlikely to get to Mars or even back to the moon until better ways are found to protect astronauts. Finally, Ralph Rene had no problem producing the publication date when he quoted John Malden. Interestingly though, the seller from eBay goes on to say,
if you can prove otherwise, your money will be refunded, plus £1 million compensation.
Since Astro Roadshow of eBay has been proven wrong, I claim £1 million. But somehow, I don't expect to receive the money anytime soon. The commander of the very first crew of astronauts who falsely claim to have survived this radiation is Frank Borman of Gemini 7 and Apollo 8. On page 220 of his book, Countdown, Frank Borman has this to say about Dr. Van Allen and his followers. The whole Apollo program had made a lot of scientists look foolish, starting with those who had pronounced the Van Allen radiation belt an insurmountable barrier to spaceflight. I've long since refused to take the word of any scientist as gospel. This arrogant statement practically sums up the attitudes of all the propagandists who have lied their whole lives in an attempt to cover for the lies of others. The attitude is, screw everything you have been told by the scientific community. Whatever NASA says is law. It should come as no surprise why Frank Borman sees science as dirt beneath his shoe. The Apollo program just isn't based on science.